Welcome back. My name is Mirthe, and I will be talking you through a little mini series of 12 steps you can start doing today to beat the bloat and finally get rid of that muffin top, but also extend your health for the long run. So step number 3 is your stress response and cortisol level. A lot of you might have heard about the importance of stress, how that can tamper with everything in your body, but it is actually also really important for belly fat. I often see this in patients as well. The skinny fat ones, they have skinny legs, skinny arms, but then they have this layer of fat around their belly. And if they've already fixed their blood sugar, that's trick number 1. Go back to that if you missed that. Then the other common reason is a cortisol, a stress level imbalance. So we actually have 2 main nervous systems. One is the stress nervous system, the fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system. That one's there in case there's a tiger running behind us and we need to have a quick burst of energy, cortisol, make us run fast, adrenaline. But then most of the time, we're actually designed to stay in rest, digest, and heal mode, also called parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the problem is that nowadays in our society, a lot of us are constantly in fight or flight mode because the body can't actually distinguish between whether there's a real tiger or whether it is perceived. If you're ruminating about what your conversation with your boss or with your partner, or if you are stressed about your weight, or if you have unresolved trauma, all these things act like a tiger. And every time we're in that state, the body pumps out cortisol. Now, why is that a problem? When there's cortisol pumped out, then we are temporarily insulin resistant. Now, if you can't remember what that was from step number 1, go back to that video. But what that means in short as well is that the body redistributes the fat accumulation around the waistline. If we're chronically stressed out, chronically pumping out too much cortisol, then the belly fat, then we start to accumulate belly fat, visceral fat. That is also a problem down the line, because that fat has been linked to increased inflammation, has been linked to contribute to cardiovascular problems, to brain degeneration, Alzheimer's disease, depression, lots of other nasty things. So we want to get rid of that overall, again, like all the other tweaks that we'll be talking about as well. Now, you might know from your own history that when you're acutely stressed, you have a deadline and it's just a short-term thing, you might actually be feeling like you're losing weight. But if that stays for too long and you're chronically stressed out, then that bulge around the belly, you're feeling like you're bloated, you're feeling like you're holding onto water, that starts to occur. And research was a little bit curious about that, why that happens as well. Now, what they found is that there are 2 things. One is our circadian rhythm. Now, we are designed to wake up in the morning and we should be having a good spike of cortisol to get out of bed, jump out of bed, get things done. But then it should start to taper off throughout the day so that we can then start to wind down and have a good night's sleep. Now, what research shows is that if we don't have that spike in the morning, we're more prone to belly fat. And on the contrary as well, if it is too high late in the day, then we're also more prone to belly fat accumulation and inflammation and all the other factors. Now, in addition to that, they also did more research showing that if your body is spiking the cortisol while your insulin is elevated, meaning that you've been eating, and your leptin as well, that you're fed, then your body will put the fat to your belly. Now, if your cortisol spikes when your insulin and leptin are low, like in a fasted state happens, then you're actually burning fat faster. So what does that mean for your day-to-day? That means that you want to spike your blood sugar, your cortisol, your stress hormone, first thing in the morning when you are fasted. So do anything that kind of really stresses you out, like a high-intensity exercise, like that cup or 2 of coffee that you love, or anything else that really gets you excited and pumped up. Do that in the morning when you're fasted. Don't do it right after a big meal or with a big meal. So don't drink tons of coffee when you've just had a massive meal. A tiny little bit to help digest, fine. But you don't want to have a ton of cortisol in the body when your body is high in insulin and leptin at the same time. What that also means is that you want to slowly start to taper down in the afternoon. You don't want to have coffee in the afternoon. You don't want, or excessive amounts if it affects your sleep. And if you wraps up your cortisol levels. You don't want to do things right before bed that get you really excited and throw off your circadian rhythm. You want to do anything exciting, high intensity, more in the first half of the day, ideally when you're fasted. And then in the second half of the day, you want to do things that are a little bit more gentle and calming, like a little bit of meditation, maybe a stretch, maybe a walk, maybe a hot bath, having time with friends and family, things like that. Now, if you really have unresolved trauma and you seem to really struggle with this, then you might need help of a therapist, because what basically happens, like I said right in the beginning of this video, is that the body can't differentiate between real and perceived threat. Now, if you have trauma that is unresolved, which sadly a lot of us do have, childhood trauma or other things, then our body is constantly thinking it's running away from a tiger. So you need to somehow get back to a state where you feel safe, whatever that means for you. You need to come to a state of feeling safe and protected, because only then the body can shift over into that nurturing rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system that allows us to lower the cortisol so you can get a good night's sleep, that you don't get all this cortisol floating around that makes you insulin resistance, that give you that belly fat, but also that helps you digest, rest, and heal. So if that's a problem for you, you might want to find some help. I hope you found this helpful. Comment below if you did, or if you have any questions, and I look forward to you in the next video in this series.